So, good morning. We are back in Bangalore. Lovely day for healthcare, actually. Day two of the Smart Tech Healthcare Summit, and I'm with my good friend Dr. Lalit Singh. So, we meet again after almost a year. Almost a year. We've been only on phone calls. Yeah. One complaint we have is you don't like Bangalore much. I think you prefer Delhi. That's why you're not even here for 24 hours. But while we have you, I heard some exciting stuff, about the nursing industry that Elsevier and you are working on. Nursing, as you know, nursing industry in India is at a bit of a challenge right now. Heavy attrition, people don't want to become nurses, girls want to take up other professions, and also there is a big issue with their staffing, training, how will they improve. So, Dr. Lalit, what are we trying to do to help the nurses?
Right. So, as you very rightly said, nursing is not the profession of choice for pretty much anyone in our country. And if you look at other parts of the world, in the US, in several other parts of the world, nursing is a very, very high in demand profession.
Correct.
They do good job. They have very high, job satisfaction rates. They have good career progressions. They do financially very good, and they are very well respected in the fraternity in the society. Unfortunately, on all these parameters, the profession fails in our country. So we have a big problem, and so that's one dimension to it. The other dimension is, do we need nurses?
Mm-hmm.
We need nurses more than anyone else in the
Correct.
entire healthcare setup, because eventually it's nurses who deliver healthcare.
Correct.
While doctors and some other diagnosticians, etc., may be making some critical decisions, it comes to nurses to implement it. So if we don't have if we don't have well trained, well motivated, and very well driven and committed workforce on nursing, we are missing the biggest element, the most important element in the healthcare delivery system. So that's the problem statement. Yeah? That's the definition of the problem that we have.
Correct.
Now, there are several reasons why we have it, and there are historical reasons, there are societal reasons, etc. Let's not get too deep into that. The fact is that if we don't address this problem now, and if we don't really systematically address this point-wise, we'll not be able to achieve our objectives of universal healthcare, improving the quality of healthcare, and rest everything that we have been talking about in the last few years. So that's where the real position and the problem in the position is. Now, what we are trying to do, that there's several things that can be done and that should be done, but I think there has to be a certain order to that. And
Okay.
in our perspective, from our perspective as an organization, and in my view as an individual, the first and the foremost thing is to actually address this at a very, very emotional and psychological level, where no parent now want their children to become a nurse.
Correct.
And no student who pass out from schools want to take up nursing as a preferred profession.
Correct.
For several people, it is the last choice when it comes to a professional journey, and we want to change that perception. We want to address it at that level to begin with. So what we are trying to do is, in last 1 year or so, we have been running a nursing image makeover project. Which is kind of very ambitious project that we have taken on with the vision to change this perception. And we are working with several players. It's not that me or our organization on its own can really bring out a big change. We just want to trigger that change and then take people along in that journey. So what we have done as part of this project is we have worked with all the leading healthcare providers in all these hospital groups, etc., and picked up their most successful nurses, not just the staff nurses, not just the nurses who are doing the clinical services, but nurses who have done well, who have excelled in the area of research, in this space of nursing informatics, in this space of nursing management, in this space of nursing education. So all these people who have done well in their respective fields and which is related to nursing, we have gone them and asked them what is it that led them to take this as a profession.
Correct.
And then how did they really succeed in their careers? What are the career paths that they looked at? What are the kind of interventions they made to their own career progression in order to reach where they have reached and become successful? And why we are doing that is because we want to drive home the inspiration from these successful people to these youngsters who are now either getting into the profession or who have already gotten into the profession but really do not know their way forward.
Correct.
So we want to give them a direction, we want to give them a motivation, we want to give them an inspiration. If you do well, if you remain committed and put yourself to the job, you can succeed. And there are successful people in this profession, and fundamentally this is the very, very important profession, as I started off with, that there's a much larger element to it, at a mental level, at an emotional level, where we need to connect with them. So we want to address this whole thing in its entirety. So I think we have connected with several of these people and collected all those stories and all those testimonials, etc. And now what we are going to do in the next phase of this project is to go to the nursing institutions, teaching institutions, hospitals, possibly schools at a later stage, where we connect with the students, with their parents, and with society to actually bring that glory to this profession that it very much deserves and very much requires in order to promote this profession. So that's one part of this story.
Correct. So just on that topic, I think obviously we run the risk of, as clinicians we know, we are running the risk of affecting the foundations of our healthcare system, especially the allopathic healthcare system, right, which has nursing. Just taking a slight deviation, I feel, personally, I was talking to Dr. Ashwin Naik yesterday, and we probably concurred that the government should have done this. What you are trying to do, this is what the government should have done, the reskilling and creating this bridge course, because I think nurses are more capable of handling clinical situations as compared to homeopathic or Ayurvedic doctors, because they're trained in the system. So do you see the government playing a role working with you, for example, or?
Yeah, of course. As I said, it's not that we can really make a big difference on our own. So as I said, we are working with partners. We are working with everybody who is involved in the equation. So we are working with the government-funded nursing colleges, for example.
Okay.
So we have taken those as part of this whole program. But the question you ask is a much higher level than that.
Correct.
Who should be leading this? In my view, what is government? Government is our own elected representatives, right? So we are essentially we are a part of the government. We have chosen a different role in that governance structure as an individual. So and as a corporate employer or a business house also, we play that role in the society. So everybody has to actually come together. Doesn't really matter who takes the lead. Doesn't really matter who pulls the trigger. As long as everybody comes together, everybody believes in it, everybody contributes to that and takes their own respective the ownership of their respective pieces in that, it's still fine. So if tomorrow a government agency says, well, this is a good thing to do and we want to do it and scale it up, we'll be very happy to actually step back and give the whole thing to them. We'll have achieved our objective if that happens. Actually, that will be the definition of success to me in a way. So who should be doing that is a big question, but actually not a question for me. The real thing is, this is the need of the hour.
Correct.
And as a country, as a society, as a group of individuals, we need to come forward, take a responsibility, and move on.
Correct.
And do these things.
So Dr. Lalit, on a lighter note, I kind of get a feeling, I know which party you voted for in Delhi when you say that all of us should come together, but that's a very, very good way of looking at it. I mean, after all, it's our representatives who are running the government.
Absolutely.
And if they want to work with us, it's absolutely great. Can you give us a few examples of how this is, what kind of response you're seeing to all these programs?
So far, on this image makeover project, I think we have not even rolled out completely because we are in the development phase till now. But within that development phase, the kind of excitement that we have seen, I'm pretty confident that once we actually roll it out and go to people and engage them in these conversations and build on this further, it's really going to have an impact. But as I was saying, what is the scale that we can achieve if we work on our own as a one single entity with a handful of partners? We can achieve a certain scale.
Correct.
But that scale will still be much lesser than what we actually needed.
Correct.
So in my mind, what we're trying to do is trying to pull the trigger and start that viral element. And the definition of success that I have in my mind is that we have in our minds is as a project team, to be able to have enough people talking about it and to give them some stuff to start off with, and then it getting propagated on its own. So we do need that viral element in order to these kind of interventions and programs become really successful at a large scale. But if you ask me, do I feel confident about it? I do feel confident about it, because people, they realize there's a big gap in the healthcare system, and it's not hidden from anyone. All of us have been patients at some point of time,
Correct.
and have interacted with the healthcare systems, and do recognize where the weak links are.
Correct.
So it's only us who have to fix those weak links. Nobody will come from outside.
So finally, I'm also hearing a lot of new developments coming from your stable. A lot of technological announcements that you're going to make soon. Anything, any sneak peek you can give us? A nurse image makeover is, I think, brilliant idea. So simple. At the same time, you have the right background in education, the right technology to do it. You found the right leaders. So any more of these coming up in this year, 2018?
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's take the discussion on nursing forward. Yeah, let's focus on nursing today.
Okay.
So I say one bit of this is actually image makeover and making this career as a more attractive career proposition, etc. Now, once we have done that, how do we ensure that people who come into this profession actually excel in the profession?
Correct.
That's the second bit, right?
Correct.
So let me give you an example how we are trying to address that problem as well. We have all those thousands of nursing colleges in the country. Not all of them are well equipped with the faculties and the tools and resources and the education material that they need in those colleges. So one of big drivers for us in last 4 to 5 years has been to have a very easy to use and easily available education material which is aligned to our nursing curriculums, and make it accessible to as many students and as many colleges as possible. So that has been going on for some time. Now we are taking it one step ahead, and what we are getting into is the practicing nurses domain. And because once they graduate, they have to go and work.
Correct.
And we really need to not just make, we just don't really need to award these students a degree at the end of it. We need to really make them employable, because they have to go and deal with the patient. So they have to become clinically more competent and confident. So another big driver for us right now, where we are focusing a lot of our effort and energy, is on the nursing skilling side. And when it comes to skilling, there are two elements to that. One is the framework in which you skill them, and second is the content of the skills that you provide them. And then the third, of course, is the the validation and certification and
Framework,
accreditation
content, and certification. Okay.
So those are three simple things.
Yeah.
So one in that order. So the framework. Do we have a nursing skills competency framework in our country, which is common and consistent across all the nursing colleges?
I don't think we have anything, right?
We don't.
We don't. Yeah.
So that's where what we are trying to do is to get one here. It's not that anyone else in the world has done anything on that. So we have a successful similar successful programs in the US, for example, where the nursing competency frameworks do exist. So we're not trying to replicate the same thing here, but we want to bring on those frameworks, the best practice around those frameworks, and expose them to the faculties and the trainers in our country and the policymakers in our country to develop our own framework. We want to use that as a raw material to develop our own framework, which fits in the requirements of our country. So that's the first step, where we want to build that framework and facilitate building that framework, rather working with governments and other agencies, like Indian Nursing Council and all. So we will be, we have been in touch with several of these agencies, and we will continue to work with them to build that framework. But once you build that framework, the second piece is around the content.
Correct.
So now that you have the framework, you know what level a particular nurse has to operate on today, when they are in their, let's say, final year of their nursing, BSc nursing course, and what level they have to operate on that particular skill or that particular competency 2 years down the line when they're staff nurse, and then 5 years down the line when they are critical care nurse, and 10 years down the line when they are nursing faculty, etc., etc. So there has to be a certain, a kind of evolution over a period of time. So for that, once we have the framework in place, the second piece is the content. So again, we don't want to replicate everything that we have done in the West, because not everything applies.
Correct.
But there is a good starting point that we have. So to give an example, what we did very recently was we worked with a large hospital chain in the country and partner with them, and we exposed our nursing skills, and training solution to them, and asked all their staff nurses to volunteer for this. and more than 60 of them did volunteer across 2 hospital sites. And then over a period of 12 weeks time, they self-selected certain skills that they wanted to train themselves on. So it's all voluntary, and it's all initiated by the nurses themselves.
Correct,
So
correct.
what they did was they took the pre-assessment on our platform. Then they took the training on our platform, and then there was a post-assessment on the platform. And what we understood and figured out at the end of the exercise was that on an average there was more than 100% improvement in the competency level of these nurses across the skills that they self-selected, across the geographical locations, across the levels of the education, across the number of year of experience of these nurses, and across the two genders. So the important thing is that what we are able to establish is that if we really put a framework in place and provide the right training material, then the skills and the competency levels do improve. Now, does it replace educators and trainers? That's a big question. What we believe is it doesn't replace them. It makes their job better, easier, and more effective.
More effective.
And it allows students to learn at their own pace. So it's not that 10 students, if they take the module, they all have to finish in that 2 hours time. Somebody can finish in half an hour, somebody could take even 3 days. Take as much time as you need and as much as the time you want in order to hit that competency level that you need to hit at the end of this. That's the objective. And these platforms, they allow them to learn at their own pace, in their own environments, in a hybrid setting where the instructors play their role.
Correct.
And these online training materials play their role. Once they have done it, at the end of at the end of it, what happens is this: now move to the third piece. So framework, then the content and the training, then the accreditation. So at the end of it lies the accreditation and certification. So hey, you have done critical care XYZ training now, you're good to practice for next 2 years, come back after 2 years to revalidate and learn the new skills in this particular area. Till that time, you're good. So now any hospital who is employing these nurses can be very confident about where they are, and they can feel very, very confident in putting these nurses on the floor on day one of their job in their hospital, and they can be confident that when they deal with their patients, they will do a good job. As much as I do, that for hospitals, these fresh nurses take somewhere between 3 to 6 months
Easily.
to really become employable, and that also consumes a lot of time and effort and energy on the side of the hospitals. And then we have 50, 60, 70% attrition rates.
You're going to train them and they leave.
So who wins in the process? No one. So what we are doing is we are locking, we are making the nurses more employable, reducing the onboarding time, and then locking them in the system for 1 year or 2 year, because at the end of it there lies the certification and recertification. And then effectively nurses become more competent, they become more confident, they do a better job. They probably progress in life and career much better than what.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because data already has proven on the medical side, at least with doctors, that continuing medical education makes you better.
Yep.
And more hours you log in, and you understand disease patterns and what is changing, new therapies, new ways to do surgery. And it's very interesting that for nurses there was never a thought whether they needed reskilling or they needed some form of booster dose along the way. And I think that will go a long way. Any final thoughts on how do you see the nursing? Because currently, I mean, this is what I've read, and of course I've written about it. So we are losing most of our nurses to New Zealand and Australia and Canada, it seems. And then we lose them to government services because government has fixed. Then they lose them to Middle East. So Middle East has become third in the pecking order, then US if it's possible, and then there is the private hospitals, which are obviously better. The corporate ones are better, and then it goes further down. So how do you see this scenario changing? Will we continue to lose nurses abroad, or do you think if you are to futuristic 5-year horizon?
Yeah. So before I go 5 years ahead, let me go 20 years behind.
Okay.
What happened in IT? We started when this whole IT revolution started, late 80s, early 90s, whatever year it was.
With Fakir Chand Kohli and TCS.
To begin with, we were losing the best of our engineers to the US, right?
Correct.
We did that for some time. Let's not talk about whether it was good or bad. What
Correct.
that led to is that now all these large IT organizations, both Indian organizations and multinational organizations, employ several hundred thousands of IT engineers in India, for India and for global markets as well. Why I'm saying this is, what's the parallel between two situations? The parallel between two situations is, if certain section of that community becomes successful, they become an inspiration for others to become more successful.
Correct.
Now, whether that success is defined as going to the US or working in a hospital in the Middle East or working on an island in New Zealand, doesn't matter. Or it is in a Fortis hospital in Delhi or at All India Institute of Medical Sciences or Bangalore Medical Sciences. That is secondary. The primary thing is that people coming out of this are getting successful. So once that thing becomes established, and provided the rest, all the ingredients are in place, we'll have a constant flow of people who will come in and become more successful.
Okay.
So am I too concerned about losing nurses to the US or Middle East or UK or New Zealand or wherever? No, I'm not. I'm happy we are losing them to them, because they are setting an example. They are creating an aspiration, and they are creating an ambition in the nurses who are following in that direction. The thing is, if we are able to really tap into this momentum and exploit it well, by providing them the right kind of job opportunities within the country, by providing them the right kind of training and infrastructure to operate in within the country.
Correct.
I see no reason why these nurses will not work there, and they will not really, aspire to become more successful in those cases. Goes back to the nursing image makeover thing that I was talking about.
Excellent.
So I'm not too concerned about losing these nurses to those places. It's an open market dynamics, right? Demand supply thing. As long as it gives a positive momentum to our country, as long as it creates that right kind of aspiration level in the students and the next lot of nurses which are following up, it's all productive in my view. Now the onus is on the country, onus is on the government, its policies and the infrastructure that the private hospitals put up, to give them the right kind of environment to learn more, to become better, to practice more, and to get that kind of job satisfaction at the end of the day. If they are satisfied with the job, if they are, if they have a financial, security with the job, if they have a career security with the job,
I agree with you.
it's like any other profession, they will flourish and they will grow.
Excellent. Dr. Lalit, all the very best for transforming the healthcare sector in India and transforming the nursing sector, more importantly. Yeah. I wish you all the best, and I wish that the image makeover program for nurses, it works well and you're able to inspire the next generation of Florence Nightingales, right? And at the same time, the work you continue to do in your traditional fields like medical education, the work you do in clinical decision support, which is outstanding. And I'm sure that will help the nurses as well eventually. So I'm looking forward to more from you, and hopefully you would like Bangalore better and come here more often.
Looking forward. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.